guys, welcome to It's Not the Dog, It's You podcast. I am not used to doing this stuff. I'm going to give it my best shot like I have been. I'm trying to learn how to do something. Nope, see? Didn't have the microphone over here. Now I have the microphone over here. I'm trying to learn how to do things that I was never meant to do. I am 58 years old and I'm an analog dog trainer in a digital world. I'm going to try my best. So the lighting, the sound, the graphics, the spelling, all that stuff is a work in progress, so bear with me. Let me know how you think I can improve in the comments below. The content will stay pretty much the same. You're going to have to really pay attention if you want to get anything out of it, and then think, and then go practice. That's what you're going to have to do. So I hope things are getting better. Please let me know in the comments. All right, so today I was walking, doing my morning walk with Betsy, and I ran into someone who said, how do you get your dog to listen to you like she does? I said, by not doing what you're doing. Now, see, people want advice until they have to work. They think there's a cheat code or a trick or a tip, but there's not. It's just a relationship with the dog. So I started to think about some of the old things my mentors had told me over the years and how I thought, what the hell does that mean? It was like a Buddhist quote or something. Because like Buddhist quotes to me are really kind of cryptic until you have more wisdom, more information, more experience, right? So like Buddhists say, I'm making this shit up, but like the tuna can was always open if you thought that it was never closed. Now, I don't have any fucking idea what that means, but that's kind of Buddhist-y. And so these little commandments, I'm going to say 10 commandments, but there's way more than 10. It's dogsmanship is what it is. There's these little distilled essence of single malt goodness that carry a lot of weight if you understand the wisdom behind them. So there's pain behind these. There's real pain because people over 36,000 years have gone through things with dogs. So I said to this guy, if I could tell you one thing, I would tell you, never give a command you can't reinforce. Well, that's a problem for this guy because the dog's name was Bob. He's like, Bob, can you come here? Bob, stop it. Bob. The dog's name is Bob. I get it. It's Bob. But the problem is he's using Bob as a command. You know, think about that. If someone came up to me and was like, Chris. See, he's trying to get the dog's attention. And that comes up a lot because people say like, what, do you use the high value treat to get the dog to engage you? No, I use clarity, trust, and respect. It's a relationship. You have to engage me. You should be looking at me. You should be thinking about me and what I want. And that's really hard for people nowadays to understand, especially this guy with Bob. So he said, what the hell does that mean? And I said, look, never give a command you can't or are unwilling to reinforce or you're too lazy to reinforce, because the dog's going to learn something different than you want it to learn. So let's say your dog is chewing on the leg of your couch. It's you little puppy or a dog you just got or whatever, and you're in the kitchen and you can look all the way down the hallway and see dog's just going to town. Right? He's a termite. And you go, hey! You just gave a command that wasn't really a command. Or how about this? Stop! Cut it out! No! All the things. Whatever word you're yelling. First of all, has the dog been properly taught not to chew on things? Or are you just kind of letting that happen? Because what's allowed will continue, right? That's another one of those commandments. One of those essence of wonderful things. Like, listen, if somebody comes up and, whoa, did you see that bug? They're big down here. If you see someone who gets away with something, a Will Smith slap on Chris Rock, what's allowed will continue. That's a big bug, man. So if you get away with something and there's no consequence for it, what's to stop you from repeating it again and again? That's what that means. What's allowed will continue. But if you trace that back to never give a command you can't reinforce, you're going to eliminate the first one. Does that make sense? You're going to eliminate what's allowed will continue. And you get rid of that. You need to think it, but then you need to not allow things. Well, never give a command you can't reinforce is one of those things. So the dog's, and you go, hey, and the dog goes, I'm just doing this. I got a chew toy over here. I got a bone over here. I don't know. I just figured it, it looks like a bone, the leg. So people come up with all kinds of wacky ways to treat that symptom. I saw a picture. I think it was a picture. I don't think it was a video of someone who taped thumbtacks to the bottom of the chair leg or to the side of the chair leg with Scotch tape, and it was inverted. So the dog's chewing on thumbtacks and tape. I mean, I get what you're trying to do, but why don't we just teach the dog? Why don't we just not give the dog freedom until it's ready to understand that freedom, till it understands what your house rules are, so that it understands you're never going to give a command that you cannot reinforce. Well, what does that mean? It means stop saying Bob, 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 Bob. You're not doing anything. Tell the dog to do something. Tell him to sit. Well, he's not going to sit. Then that's the problem. You've given too many commands that you can't or didn't or were too lazy to reinforce, and Bob knows you're full of shit. That's it. You can go get an e-collar. Bob's going to say you're full of shit when the e-collar's not on. You can go get treats. Bob's going to say you're full of shit when you don't have treats. But Bob's getting bribed and punished for shit you didn't teach Bob to do correctly. Well, that's kind of a tough sell to people now in this era of non-commonsensical, anthropomorphic, marketed, human, profitable dog training, right? So if you think about it simply, if you really think about it simply, never give a command you can't reinforce. That's a practice. It's a meditation. It's a practice. You want to contemplate that. You want to feel it. Why? Why should I never give a command I can't reinforce? Well, number one, dogs don't understand your particular language. So dogs don't come understanding Spanish or Chinese or English. They come with this program in them that movement is dialogue. That's their language. That's their language. They're built out. They're built horizontally, not vertically. That changes everything. They don't have thumbs. That changes everything. They're an opportunistic predator. That changes everything. So you have to have different rules of engagement for dogs than you do with people. And in some places they cross over. Now people have gotten really lax with boundaries now, and they're waiting until the dog gets completely out of control, and then they're going to try to get it all back at once. They're going to try to get it all back at once. So now they're going to try to get their leadership up by using food. Nope. By using e-collar. Nope. By using prong and e-collar and a toy. Nope. None of that shit. Don't bring a positive reinforcer into a negative behavior. So Bob is barking at another dog. Bark, 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 bark. The other dog in my scenario is nyah, 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 nyah. Both guys are yelling, hey, hey, bark, bark, bark. One guy's remodeling the furniture and the other one's picking a fight. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Now, do I want you to go full Cypress Cal and start beating the piss out of the dog? No, but you're putting a dog in a situation where you have not reinforced your commands that you have given, and the dog knows you're full of shit, which also leads to what's allowed will continue. It leads to a whole bunch of things that people don't really understand. I made a list of them over here. All problem canine behaviors are simply behaviors. Movement is dialogue. The dog is communicating. These problem behaviors are only a problem because of your ignorance and how you communicate with the dog. So if you have jumping problems, pulling problems, reactivity, resource guarding, if you have, I'm moving it over so I can read it. If you have counter surfing, barrier frustration, chewing or other destructive behaviors, housebreaking, resource guarding, animal and dog aggression, human aggression, these are all behaviors that are rewarded and ignored. Do you understand what I mean? So if the dog's barking and it wants to bark, 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 and you're going, stop, you're not getting the point across to your dog. What sucks about, that's a Teletubby. What sucks about the Teletubbies? If you're going to get a collar and put it on the dog, now you can reinforce that, but it's not really you. It's not personal, right? So I was thinking about my kids when they got old enough to drive. And I would say to them, you get in a car with a drunk driver, don't worry about the police, worry about me. That's personal. That's personal because I've seen drunk drivers kill people. I've seen my friends who were driving drunk get killed. I want that lesson to be understood. I want that lesson to be understood. Now, ultimately, with humans, you can communicate at a more base level because of verbal communication. You can't do that with a dog. Actions speak way louder than words, right? So there's all these like 10 commandment distilled essence of single malt dog training that are in dogsmanship, and I'm going to say a lot of them. And if you want to hear more about them, let me know in the comments, and I'll create more content that shows you that. Because I do believe, and this is really hard for people, I noticed that a lot of people are waiting to be instructed about dogs or dog training, or they can just make up whatever they want and call it good. If you're happy with your dog and you're happy with your dog's behavior, God bless. And thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. But if you're having a problem, if you're really having a problem with your dog and you're treating the symptoms, it may be because of the way that you've been taught. Like if the dog's jumping, do this. But then someone comes through the door and goes, oh, and lets the dog jumps up and reinforces it. Well, not only are you confusing the dog, but the dog's going to default towards what it gets. What's allowed will continue. Right? Okay, get off me. Okay, get off me now. You got to stop. You got to stop. I don't care what you're saying. You're telling that dog to stay there. Never give a command you can't reinforce. And let's put it this way. Never give a command you're going to reward if you don't want it, right? Like stop or cut it out or off. Well, you're rewarding what you don't want. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's a little bit fucked up. So if you look at the way I train is I'll see a problem behavior and then I'll choreograph it so I can give the command or teach the lesson so that the dog understands don't chew on the leg. It's not, hey, God damn it, what are you doing? Because that teaches the dog area of influence. That teaches the dog all this stuff you don't want that dog to know. It's funny. All these problem behaviors that you have of jumping, pulling, housebreaking, resource guarding, those behaviors are source rewarded. And the dog is telling you, no, I'm going to keep doing this. You know, if the dog got what it wanted and there's no cost, the dog's going to repeat the behavior again. Allowing is reinforcing, reinforcing is training. So I got a story for you, all right? So I had two grandmothers. On my father's side, my mother's side, everybody has that. Nana was my dad's mother, so my grandma. And when we went over to Nana's house, it was a great time. It was always good time, Nana. That's what we did. So we'd go over there and, you know, the floor is lava. We'd jump on the furniture and we'd, you know, draw on the wall. We were just assholes. But it's because she just let everything go. As we got older and we started to keep jumping on the couch or doing what we shouldn't do, she would say, let's say it's jumping on the couch. She'd say, you need to stop jumping on the couch. But we knew she was full of shit. How did we know? Kids, can you, if you, I'll give you $1 if you stop. They're like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. My cousins and I'll give you $1 if you stop. All right. We stopped. She gives us all $1. What do you think happened the moment she left? We started doing it again because we got $1 for being idiots. People think it's because we got the $1 because we stopped. But we figured out pretty quick that if we wait about a half an hour and we start jumping again, in a couple hours, we had $5. Don't bring a positive reinforcer into a negative behavior, right? So she figured that out too. And then she'd be like, God, she was funny. I'm going to get the spoon. I've had it. I'm out of money. I got no more cookies. I'm going to get the spoon. Going to get the spoon. We're jumping, happy as pigs and shit. Jumping. I'm getting it. I'm going to go get it. She'd start walking towards the kitchen. We jump. She picks up the spoon. We know she's full of shit. She starts coming over. She gets close enough to whack us with the spoon. We sit with our hands folded. She goes and puts the spoon away, goes into the other room. What do you think we did? That's all of the things that think of what you're teaching your dog there and what we learned, right? So if you look at the fact that we learned that she's full of shit, we learned her area of influence, that if she's going to come to you with money or a spoon, wait till she gets close to stop the behavior. What's allowed will continue. Who's the teacher? Who's the student? Pressure on training. The dog will only stop it if you, or the kid, don't do that. Avoidance behavior. We learn to avoid her. You know, so that happens with dogs too. Like if you have a dog that's chewing and you go, hey, cut it out, or you're from a distance and you're not choreographing the lesson the right way, that dog learns, or is more likely to learn, that when you leave, it can do whatever it wants. So you're going to come home to destructiveness. That's not the dog being stupid. That's our Nana giving us cookies, dollar bills, and getting the spoon. If she's not home, that house is trashed. Now, my other grandmother, Graham, my mom's mother, would fuck your shit up. Now, you went into her house and she had little tchotchkes and knickknacks and bric-a-brac and whatever. And all her furniture was covered in plastic. Gaudiest shit you ever saw. You're like, oh, but covered in plastic. You know anybody like that? Back in the 60s and 70s, they had a little furniture. Even the lampshades were covered in plastic. There were runners on her floor so you couldn't walk on it. And she vacuumed 3 or 4 times a day, and the lines had to be right, you know. It wasn't a kid-friendly environment, but she was a very sweet lady. She always remembered us on our birthdays and important dates, and she would cook for us, and she always gave us big Christmas gifts. She just didn't have any fucking time for kids' shenanigans, right? So we jumped on that couch once, all 5 of us, my cousins and my sisters, and she just appeared from nowhere. Right up the back of your head. You know, like in Harry Potter where Snape just whacks him in the back of the head? You're going to catch a bad one. Why are you going to catch a bad one? Because you were doing something you shouldn't have been doing. It's just that simple. So as a result, where she had a 0 tolerance policy, her level of correction was perfect, her timing was excellent, we learned a different lesson from her. The lesson from her was she is not going to give a command that she is not prepared to reinforce. In other words, she's not full of shit. And her area of influence was massive till the day she died. Clarity, trust, and respect. Never give a command you can't reinforce, or you're not prepared to reinforce, or you're too far away to reinforce, or you're too lazy to reinforce, because that's part of dogsmanship. That's a big part. There's a lot of these little things, and I love them. And I was thinking about Bob, who's continuing to bark, and he said, well, I don't want to make him upset. I said, what? Hold on. You don't want to make Bob the barking? That was Boston. Barking Bob, you don't want to make him upset? Well, what do you want me to do? You want me to hit him? No. What do you want me to do? I said, I don't know what you're going to do, because now we're not talking about you. We're talking about Bob. I'm talking about how Bob sees the world. How do you correct him? Oh, I don't correct him. I wouldn't correct him. I want him to know that I love him. Okay. He knows. He's barking. He's barking. You're saying his name like, I mean, does he understand English? Oh, yeah. Well, tell him to crawl. But he doesn't understand that. Okay. This is where people get into teaching techniques. If you have barking, we'll get a no bark collar. If you have barking, we'll get an e-collar. If you have barking, we'll distract and redirect with food. If you have a prong collar, we'll give a sharp correction. Fine. If that works for you, great. But you're trying to fill a gap where you didn't teach the dog the rules of your house. Like Nana. She's whatever, anything goes. When she got pissed, she felt so disrespected, she would go crazy. She would overcorrect. She would get hurt. Emotions would come out. Graham would be like, tough shit. Don't jump on the... I remember one time, oh my God. We were over one of my clients' house, Nancy. She's, older lady. God damn, man, I miss her. I miss her a lot. She had 3 dogs through our tenure with her. It's just awesome. She's a tough cookie. And the kids were over the house, and Austin loved that she baked. She made the best chocolate pecan pie you ever had in your life. I swear to God, she put 100 pounds on me. Anyway, she made chocolate chip peanut butter cookies. So she gave the kids each one, and Austin, being the youngest, hadn't been Nancy'd yet. So he climbed up on a chair, went to get another one. She popped him in the hand. What? She said, did I say you could have another cookie? He looks at me like, it ain't my house, bro, and you didn't ask. I'd probably ask. He said, can I have another cookie? She said, not today. It's not that easy. It's a good lesson there. People, my kid wants the cookie. Hey, your kid's going to want to do heroin too. You got to put those boundaries in young. It's hard, man. It's hard. But you know what? You'll thank me, and you'll thank yourself when your dog doesn't get hit by a car, or when your dog doesn't chew something and get a blockage, or the dog doesn't take off and make a litter of puppies. That's what we're playing for here. That's why these things are so good. These little dogsmanship quotes that lead to all of this wisdom and all of this understanding and experience. That's where you get experience. My mentors would tell me things. Never give a command you can't reinforce. Every one of them said the same thing. Every one of them. And they all had the same definition for it. Be smart. Be efficient. Teach the dog who you are. Teach the dog what's expected of it. That's what dog training is. You don't wait. You don't go purely positive and then go to an e-collar trainer when you have behavior problems because you went purely positive. You don't put e-collars on puppies. Yeah, you'll get results, but at what cost to the dog? Because that's a different kind of reinforcing. So never give a command you're not prepared to reinforce. Now comes the e-collar. Does the dog know the way out of the correction? Is it a correction of disobedience, or is it a correction of behavior? Do you go get the collar and put it on, even with a prong, or if you're redirecting with food? If you have to do something before you give the command, you don't know enough about the dog to understand how to choreograph its life. That's how it used to be. Dog people knew things that people, I guess people who like dogs or people who think they like dogs don't know now. And I'm not trying to shit on anyone. I'm trying to say it's hard to watch sometimes. It's really hard to watch, because when you start to understand that if the dog hasn't been taught how to solve the problem, and in some cases the dog's been taught to create the problem, to continue the problem, literally train to continue pulling, baw, barking, baw, baw, baw. Now, where is this milquetoast handler who doesn't want to make bastard barking Bob upset? Where do you go? He's going to get pissed. He's going to get pissed. So he's going to medicate the dog potentially, get an e-collar potentially, go to a trainer who's going to say, here's a flirt pole and a toy, and here's this. None of those are what the problem is. The problem is the guy doesn't know enough about dogs because dog trainers don't teach really cool things and expect their students to practice them and hold them accountable to them, like never give a command you can't reinforce, because then what's allowed will continue. And the dog will think it's the teacher and you're the student. And you'll get desperate and put pressure on, and the dog will learn to not trust you. The dog may mark and do these behaviors when you're not home because you have made the dog pressure-wise or collar-wise or food-wise. That's not a good way to live for a dog. It's funny because it's really simple if you go, that makes sense, Chris. But now, how do you put it into practice? Try. Just try. Try to put it into practice. Just see for the day. Just say, how many commands are you giving that you're not reinforcing? Are they fair? Does the dog know what the way out is? Does the dog respect you? Is the dog clear about what you want? Does the dog trust you? Just think about that. Think about that for an hour, a day, a couple days, a week, 10 days, a month, and just keep track of how many commands you give and you're not reinforcing them. Do you know why that's important? Because every time you miss one, you had an opportunity to make your dog better and your relationship better and your obedience better, and you missed it. You can't get it all back at once, guys. It's always less than a clock. You're always training. If the dog's awake, it's training. That's really hard to get through people's heads now, because think about how many commands are given at daycare and never reinforced. Now, the dogs reinforce every goddamn one of them. The people, come, you want a cookie? No, we need this. Come on, guy. Come on, okay. Or at the vet, okay, who's this? Oh, he does. Okay, that's the dog telling you to do something, and you're obeying. That dog says, don't do shit because I'm going to reinforce it if I don't like it. That's entitlement. How did the dog get to the point where it thinks it can growl at the vet? Back up. You understand that movement is dialogue, don't you? Get a muzzle. Get sedation. Let's do it another day. Do you get it? You ever see the video of that girl petting the pit bull? I forget what his name is. I forget. Bishop. And she's petting him. She's like, okay. That dog's telling her what to do. If you look at that video in the background, that dog's turned into a bully because of not reinforcing commands that you give. And what's allowed will continue. There's another dog in that house. There's another dog in that video. While this dog is growling at this poor girl, another dog who's as skinny goes over to the food and is like, it's trying to take advantage of the opportunity where the dog who is running the house is not looking. That's how your dog, if it's not clear, will tell you how to do. You better not go near my food. Don't you go near my food. Once the dog starts correcting the human and the human starts accepting the reinforcement of that correction, you've got a dangerous dog on your hands, because the dog is efficient. And if he doesn't like it or she doesn't like it, they're going to reinforce what they want. I see it all the time. Who's the teacher? Who's the student there? You start modifying your behavior that's totally normal. Like if you're beating the shit out of the dog, yeah, modify that behavior. But I'm saying, like, you go to pick up the dog's dish, the dog does that. What the fuck? Did you bump your head? Why would you not take care of all those problems when the dog is young or when you first get the dog? Never give a command you can't reinforce, or you won't reinforce, or you don't know how to reinforce. That's what dogsmanship is about, learning all those things so you can have a better, clearer relationship, because all the behaviors that your dog is exhibiting that you don't want are a direct result of your lack of understanding of dogsmanship. You're not a clear leader. Dog doesn't trust you, or the dog doesn't respect you, or both. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. But we don't live in a simple society today. We don't listen to, what do you mean, Chris? We want, what? Okay. The bullet point. So now someone goes out and teaches that, but they don't have the wisdom. They don't have the understanding in a deep way. That's tough, because the further we go into technology, the further we get away from dogs. We're with them, but we're not here. We're using them as, I don't know, status symbols and money-making ideas and ATMs and stuff. It's fine. Do what you want to do. But this principle is irrefutable, because I didn't come up with it. Great trainers before me came up with it. And it's one of those things where when you see someone who knows it and practice it, you give them the, yeah, how you doing? You don't talk around a good dog trainer. You don't critique. You just watch. You go, yeah, it's good. A good dog trainer says, what do you think I'm missing? They want to make the relationship better between them and the dog. They're not looking to go, hey, Emperor's New Clothes, I'm so good. It's always a work in progress. Always. That's your responsibility to the dog. That's dogsmanship. And it just got me thinking that little Bob is out there. But he's probably still fucking there. Betsy's sitting right here. Doesn't mean Betsy's a better dog. It means we have a better relationship. It doesn't mean that Betsy's going to give me sit every time I want it, because we're not there. I haven't had a lot of time. But when you pick up that leash, you better be right. Think about how much easier your life would be with your dog if every time you picked up that leash, the dog knew what heel, sit, down, stay, and come are. Dismissed. And then the dog earned everything it got instead of was given everything. If you give an opportunist, go ahead, help yourself. Go ahead. They're going to eat you up. Help yourself. Go ahead, buddy. Mi casa es su casa. Nope. This is my house. It's not your house. You don't get on the counter. What the fuck? Again, how do you address that? Figure it out. Try something. If you have to go get equipment, let's put it this way. The more equipment, the less trainer. Dog will teach you everything you need to know. Just take off the leash and collar and start working with the dog. It's got a bone, get the bone. Don't trade up, just you and the dog. Dog's pulling, we can't do that. Just me and the dog. Dog doesn't get corrected to hurt the dog. The dog gets corrected to understand the lesson. Don't do that. But then if you go out the next day and you let that dog drag you, and you go get an e-collar or you reward it with food, you're a dick. Just my opinion, folks, but you're a dick. Because there are rules of engagement. Their language is known. We're just changing it now. And I thought, with Bob, how do I tell this guy something that he can grab onto because he's looking for a tip or a trick? I said, you know what? I said, there's so many places online that are much more geared to what you want, but not what's right for the dog. He's like, well, I'm not getting an e-call. Now I started getting mad because I won't help him. And I tried the treat thing. I said, listen, man, I don't know what to tell you other than these little tips of goodness that I'm giving you. Like, think about that. Never give a command you can't reinforce. He doesn't want a tip. He doesn't want to think. He wants Bob to stop fucking barking. How did Bob learn to do this and ignore his owner? See, the thing that the owner is forgetting or never knew or isn't taught anymore is that